We are recording.
We are recording.
Welcome to Courtney on Health with Courtney and Maxine. Maxine, do the intro.
Hi. Hi, Malcolm, and of course, hi, Courtney. Here we are on another episode of wonderful information about health and wellness with Courtney. But in my usual way, I try to add something a little slightly on the side. And this one's going to be Cheeseburger in Paradise by Jimmy Buffett. Kind of fits in a strange way to the continuation of our organic show. So here's just a few of the stanzas. Try to amend my carnivorous habit, made it nearly 70 days, losing weight without speed, eating sunflower seeds, drinking lots of carrot juice and soaking up in the rays. But at night I'd have these wonderful dreams, some kind of sensuous treat, not zucchini, fettuccine, or bulgur wheat, but a big warm bun and a huge chunk of meat. Cheeseburger in paradise, heaven on earth with an onion slice. Not too particular, not too precise. I'm just a cheeseburger in paradise. So the question arises, was that cheeseburger in paradise organic? Should it be? While we want to eat healthy, we also want to indulge on occasion. What do we need to know what's inside? And why do we need to know what's inside that cheeseburger? Was the cattle grain fed with no pesticides or growth hormones? Did the livestock roam free? Or were they locked side by side in a giant facility with little or no space to move? When we see meat or eggs with the USDA organic certification, should we feel safer knowing that it was grown or raised under higher standards? Organic foods typically contain the same amount of nutrients, vitamins, and minerals as non-organics, but there is a difference. Typically, foods that are organic contain fewer pesticides, fewer multi-drug resistant bacteria, and no genetically modified organisms. So, Courtney, everyone needs to kind of get the difference in how we can, through this debate, organic versus organic, even though it tends to be pricier. Is it cracked up? Is it all cracked up that it should be? And is the conventional food okay to be eating? And what's the difference? So,
Was that
so
your was that your segue for us to talk about eggs, Maxine?
well, there's eggs, there's cheeseburgers, there's lists of food that we should and shouldn't, dirty dozens, clean lists, organic, GMOs. That's all for you to decipher. So we'll let you go first.
A bit of a recap of just what the organic what the organic seal looks like. I'm going to post it on the Courtney on Health Facebook page, so everyone has an idea of what they look like. But if something is 100% organic, it also means that it is not, GMO free, so genetically modified organism free. So those two things are umbrellaed together. So if something is organic, it includes the fact that it must be non-GMO. It doesn't work the other way around, however. If something is non-GMO, it doesn't necessarily mean it's organic. So that's an important thing for consumers to understand the difference when it helps in terms of purchasing what they really want to purchase, what's important to them. The labeling on produce lists out the fact that no pesticides, herbicides, insecticides are used in organic produce. So it's important people understand what that includes. The Dirty Dozen list that we hear about every year, I like to focus on the Clean 15 because it focuses on the positive, is a really helpful tool, I feel like, for people to use in order to help drive their purchasing of produce. Organic produce can be very, very expensive. So that list every year ranks from least contaminated to most contaminated, the produce residue, pesticide residue that's left on produce after it's not been cooked, so it's raw and it's cleaned. So if you know that something's been sitting, it's pretty clean and it has the least amount of pesticides and it's pretty much been there for a really long time, maybe you can carve out some of that, buy that conventionally, and that frees up some money for your budget to buy other produce that might be at the top of the list. So for example, strawberries it might help free up some of that money. So that's where I think that list is most beneficial for people. So I did want to, recap that. I will post these labels to help, consumers understand what they're buying. I'll post them in a couple of different places, but that's important to mention because I think it's an important issue for people to understand, how to manage, how to minimize the risk of any pesticide residue that might be on that produce. The take-home message: eat more fruits and vegetables, however you can do it. Okay, I don't want the list to scare people away from eating produce. It should be a tool to help drive more produce and the best produce that can fit within your budget.
Yeah, on that list, I know, I think peppers is on that list. And then I think recently they put like hot, spicy peppers on there. And I was like, what? I figured the hot and spicy would just kill anything else. So I didn't like that. And I like spicy things. So I was like,
I know.
I don't know why that entered the list, but it did.
So, but it is available at ewg.org. It's based on USDA data, but it's available every year. So you can even go back a couple of years and look if you wanted to. But
Well, a question I have,
Yeah.
if you drink alcohol, wine or beer or, scotch, does that kill the pesticides in the body? You eat the bad things and then then it sanitizes it.
Field research. You willing to do field research on that? I'm afraid not.
Oh, okay. This is a thought.
Well, it was dashed. Go on, Courtney.
Talk about the some of the labeling around antibiotic, antibiotic-free, all natural, organic within our poultry, meat, eggs, and dairy, because I think that can be a little confusing for a lot of people. So let's start with the term all natural. So all natural on a label pretty much is telling us that it's been minimally processed, and that there are no artificial ingredients added to it. It does not mean, however, that it's antibiotic free. So that's important to understand. So that's what the all natural label, and I find that on a lot of different things. So for example, I'm just holding up some things, and it doesn't mean that it's terrible. So you see an all natural. These are turkey sausages here. So that's just important that you understand what you're getting in that particular package. When it comes to poultry and pork, the hormone-free label that we see on a lot of packaging is a little bit deceiving, because for the last 50 years, hormones have been disallowed in all pork and all poultry. So it's a little bit of a marketing technique to try and get you to perhaps buy that, but it's a completely unnecessary label because it's already there. It doesn't have to be labeled that way. There are no hormones used in poultry or pork in the United States. So I think that's important for people to understand as well. So since we're talking about poultry, we can talk about all the different types of eggs. And there are so many different egg labels out there. I think that one of the bigger categories we see is the free range, cage-free, free roaming. So what the consumer needs to know about that is that basically that means they're open barns or open warehouses that really allow for the chickens, the hens, to have much more natural behavior. So whether they're allowed to peck a little bit more, they're allowed to expand their wings a little bit more. So it really, it kind of focuses on a little bit more of the welfare of the animal in that particular case. What it's not going to tell you, however, is how big that pen space needs to be, and if the animal is actually going to go out and use that space, and for how long. And it is not something that is certified. So if you see that on a carton of eggs, it's important to understand that it does not necessarily mean organic. It's basically talking about the ability for the hen or the chicken to get out into some open space. Whether they do that or not is entirely up to the chicken or the hen. But again, a little bit more of a focus. Happy chicken, let's face it, happy animals, in theory might produce, better quality food products. But there really are no specifics about, like I said, the size or whether the chicken or the hen can go out. Organic eggs just like we said with our produce, covers the fact that their feed has to be herbicide, insecticide, pesticide free. So whatever they're eating has to also fall underneath the organic guidelines. Yeah, so it includes all of that. And it includes, in this case, the fact that no antibiotics were ever used at all. So this is going to go for either products from chickens, hens, like eggs, and it includes the fact for actually chickens themselves. So that's important for people because, as you mentioned a little bit, Maxine, the antibiotic resistance is a huge issue. So I know a lot of consumers are really trying to, as we should, really focus on the amount of antibiotics that are used specifically for growth in a lot of our livestock. So the organic label does indicate that. It says organic. It does mean that no antibiotics were used, and USDA is sent out to check on compliance. So somebody is literally minding the hen house when it comes to that particular case. The only exception is the first 24 hours of life, where you can administer antibiotics to the hatchling, first 2 days only, and that's it. It might have something to do with tamping down salmonella. I didn't get a chance to really look into that, but that is permissible. So it's literally, day one when it's just emerging from the shell, and then that very first day. But aside from that, no antibiotics used.
So the antibiotics, one of the main reasons that they are considered culprits in a lot of things is it was building up resistance in humans. They were eating, animals that have antibiotics within them. And then when we needed to take an antibiotic for any particular, thing, it wasn't helping as much, and it was reducing, the humans. So it's not only, it's good for the animal not to be able to have that if they don't need it, and then certainly it goes down the chain of food, and so
absolutely, yeah, that's the biggest issue. Now, obviously, if an animal is sick, and this is going to be whether it is a dairy cow, cattle cow, chicken, if an animal is sick and they need to be treated, of course they should receive the antibiotics. But for the organic label to still remain on there, that particular animal is removed from the line, moved into a separate processing line. Doesn't mean that they will receive the antibiotics, but once they receive the antibiotics, they cannot be put in the organic line again. They're sent, it's for regular processing, so conventional processing. So I think that's important for people to know.
But the antibiotic-free product or produce or whatever, or versus the organic in terms of cost, how does that work? The organic is always seems to be more, and the antibiotic-free seems to be cheaper. Is there, how does that work?
Absolutely. So, so back to our comment when we were first starting about the availability of more reasonably priced organic produce. I will say that you can find in places like Costco and BJ's, their organic poultry, and I'll just use poultry as an example, happens to be the best priced organic poultry that's around. It still might be prohibitive for certain people to afford that. So if you're going to not buy organic and choose the and looking for, listen, I can't do all that, but I really prefer the antibiotic free, there are options for you. And those options are going to be, and I will post these two labels, I promise you. If you see the American grass-fed or the USDA process verified seal on a package that says no antibiotics, no antibiotics ever, or never given antibiotics, you can be 100% sure, I suppose we have to say really, 99% sure that that product you're buying, okay, has never had antibiotics used in it. So that would be the option I would say to look for. And I am finding that more often in grocery stores right now, that combination of those two things. So again, it's going to be that label, either American grass-fed or the USDA process verified in conjunction with one of those antibiotic-free notations on the label. So that would be an option if, again, organic is just not price-wise in the cards for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. Now, obviously, if you can afford it, or people that can afford it, they would go organic. but now there are people who necessarily cannot afford it. Is there that much of a difference on the body when you eat it for children or for adults if you eat non-organic? I mean, does that really, screw up the body in the future, for the future? Do we know that?
It's an incredibly valid question, and I don't have the 100% answer to it. What we know is that the least amount of exposure to anything, and I will say that all of these products, from meat to pork to beef, they are tested. So even if you're buying a product that doesn't fall into either of the categories that I just mentioned, okay, and it's just conventionally processed, they are tested for antibiotic, levels in the meat. So almost in every case, there's going to be a testing that's done, and they are not going to put it to market if they find above expected levels of a certain compound in there, whether it be an antibiotic or otherwise, in the meat. So again, it's a complicated issue for some people because they really have to weigh this all out. I think given, if you only eat something infrequently, you're probably better off, you can buy like better quality, meats, your butcher meat. Those are definitely options for you. Try to find a store that's selling it maybe in bulk. So I often recommend that to my clients a lot. Like even if you're buying for one or cooking for one, try to buy it in bulk. Family packs of anything are going to be less expensive than individual pieces of it. And if you buy a family pack, it might make it more affordable than if you're buying an individual piece. So no, if you're just buying conventionally processed meat, you're going to are you sickening your family? Probably not. But as you've noticed, we're evolving. We're trying to think a little bit more about what's going on in our environment. So right. The antibiotic issue is maybe a little bit less of what it's doing to us personally if you eat that chicken breast versus what's it doing broad-based to our environment, what's it doing to antibiotic resistance, what's it doing to the animal welfare. For some people, animal welfare, is really a higher priority than other things. So they take that into consideration. So I don't think it's necessarily a black and white, answer that we have. That's why we try and have these sessions to give people some options and a way to work around it. I will say, and again, I say this a lot when I'm working with my, my client base. If you've got, and I'm holding on to the milk here because I'm thinking about kids and milk. And let's say you're on a fixed budget, yeah? And a lot of people are really trying to keep the purse strings fairly tight. But your kiddos drink a lot of milk and a lot of yogurt. My advice to them is, if you've got X amount, of a budget of money, spend your money on the organic milk, organic yogurt, because it becomes a game of how much are you eating of that particular food. It was the same example I would make if you've got a kid who all they eat is strawberries, and that's the only fruit they're eating. So that's really the only thing you're able to buy. You might want to consider buying that organic because it might be pushing you above that point where we think an okay amount, would be acceptable.
Yeah.
So
some of the box stores and supermarkets have their own organic brand. So it's the prices are coming down because of that. So perhaps, you can get a store brand that's probably not going to be as much as, a Stonyfield or one of those that might be, a little higher in price on the organic, but you're still getting organic. Hopefully what they say they're giving you, which is always a question on anything. But I think that's a big thing now too, because organics are coming down. The price is coming down a bit. So
absolutely. And the store brands are, and even within, I have to be honest with you, and I don't like to throw any particular brand under the bus, but even in the brand names, I've seen a $3 difference per gallon in between two different brand name organic milks. So I have to ask myself, if they're both organic and they both are carrying the seal, what's justifying a $3 difference per gallon? I mean, first, that's crazy. So I'm a huge fan of Whole Foods 365 organic milk. I do trust the seal that's on there. It's the organic seal. So I know that it means antibiotic free, and RBST, which is that the bovine somatotropin. It's a growth hormone. So I know that it's free of that. That's important to me, and they've got the best organic milk prices around, but so do most other store brands. So to your point, Maxine, Costco's organic milk, Stop and Shop's organic milk, ShopRite's organic milk. Their brand name is usually $1 to $2 less per gallon, which is significant for people who are blowing through a lot of milk, for example, or even yogurt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always look at that, try to make sure that I'm eating that, because I am a Greek yogurt fan, and I try to get the probiotics, the kefir, they come in organic and not organic. You got to look and see, and there's a difference in price, and do they have your strawberry flavor or whatever, so
Right.
it's always a question of the consumer being educated enough to know what they're getting or looking at.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that, because I think it's really, and we touched on this, I think I was talking to somebody the other day about, choices with the organic produce. She heard the show about, buying organic produce in the bags, right? Because that's less money than buying individual pieces. But she's like, that's great, except that I'm trying to reduce my plastic. And I'm forced to buy the individual piece. So I think everybody's dealing with their individual, how they're trying to make it all work. So it's not a simple decision about, oh my gosh, I can't afford organic, chicken all the time. So am I hurting my family? The answer is no, you're not hurting your family. You do the best you can in the budget you have to work with. You try to, shop those sales when you can. Try to get family packages, as I mentioned, that would bring the costs down. If you've got, as we're moving into local produce and local eggs, season around here, try to see if you maybe got a local farm that has produce or has eggs, or even has, chicken that you can buy from them. It might not necessarily be the least expensive, but it might be a better option for you, and it might not be as expensive as what you're buying maybe in a store. Now, having said that, I know some of the eggs that I'm fortunate enough to have eggs around where I am. There's a bunch of local places that have the organic, their organic eggs, but they can be $6, $7, $8 a carton.
Right.
So that for many people, it sounds nice. And I think that would be nice, and it would, I know the color of the yolks is fantastic, but that really knocks that particular product out of the running for almost all people. $7, $8 eggs is just not gonna fit into most people's, budget.
Well, if you have a house and enough land, get your own chickens and get
Yes,
your own eggs.
Yes, you can. And so speaking of the chicken, so a lot of things can drive the yolk color, right? So if they're allowed to get out and they're eating things like more marigold leaves and more, think of the color of the plants that they might be eating, it's going to drive their yolk color. So, so that is something to look for. So sometimes if you're getting, eggs that are local, the color might look a little bit different. That doesn't mean that your regular eggs in the store, if they're a little more pale yellow, are unhealthy. It just means the feed is probably going to be a little bit different. Same thing with omega-3 fatty acid eggs. The chickens are fed feed with maybe flaxseed in it, or another high omega-3 source that pumps up the omega-3 content of the eggs. So that's how that happens. I get that question sometimes about,
right, the color. Yeah, I noticed the difference too. If I get something from, eggs from like the farmer's market in town versus the eggs I'll buy, in the supermarket, there was definitely a difference. So, and you wonder, is that good or bad? Which one is bad? What's the problem? Why is this one,
Yeah, of course. But I will tell you, there's been a couple of he's actually a chef, and he's actually a food scientist as well. And he did a very interesting, he said, I believe from his perspective, treating more human, more humane way to treat the animals, better quality, product. It's all good, but they did a side-by-side taste. They turned literally the eggs all green, so that you couldn't tell the color, because they obviously your eyes drive things, right? So that bright orange yolk, it's like your mind will say, like, of course it's got to be healthier. It's a bright orange color, but he turned everything green, and essentially everything tasted the same once all of the color was made the same. So I thought that was an interesting factoid about what our eyes can do when it comes to the foods that we eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate to say this, but the more we talk, the more I'm sort of not anxious to eat anymore.
Oh gosh.
Why?
What, green eggs?
I have the angst of, when I pick up
just don't eat green eggs and ham. That's all. Yeah, there's nothing you have to worry about. You're all good.
It's one of my hopes for these sessions and these segments and these shows is that we've got options, and it's not meant to scare people about what we're eating. It's really not. We have access to the most amazing food, most of us in this country. So it's really about options, working with what you have, not making people feel guilty if they're not choosing organic, and choosing the best that you can and the healthiest that is available to you.
Right. That's what I wanted to bring out, that you don't have to be afraid of eating. You have to enjoy.
Yes, enjoying, and especially in this day and age, enjoying food is important life, thing to do, because hell, there's so much going on, and then my dog is like, I'm sorry, sorry, Sparkles is, I don't know. I'm wearing my Snoopy t-shirt today. Maybe that's why.
Maybe Sparkles wants to be on the show.
Yeah, well, I don't know. She'll have to have doggy health section. She'll have to have like dog foods, which are better, or the organic dog foods.
Do they have?
I get, I get things in the mail like about dog food, about dog food kits, like like human food kits. They have, don't give your dog kibble. Does your dog want to eat that? It was like, and then. And there's so many dog owners. I mean, at this point, if you did a dog food show, it would probably be.
You would need the dog food show. You need to find a veterinarian to talk to.
Let's find a vet and we'll do a dog food show, right, Sparks?
Or organic dog food.
Yes, there are definitely dog foods that are trying to make that market switch, Yeah. So anyway.
I'm going to focus on people. That's going to be my.
Oh, shucks. We want Sparkles. You're out of luck. Courtney said no doggy.
You're so cute, puppy.
Yeah, she's a character.
So yeah, I will post a lot of these different seals that we spoke about today, and some additional information.
Okay. Where can we get all that information? Give us your.
What's that?
Give us all your sites to check and everything.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
CLG Wellness on Instagram, and if you go to Facebook and go to Courtney on Health, I post information about these segments. I post, other nutrition or fitness information there, so you can find info there. And always welcome questions, comments. So if you've got something to say or something's, a question you have, fire away, and I'll do the best I can, as always, to answer your questions.
Great. And you can also get the show on the manyshadesofgreen.com, and of course, malcolmpresents.com, and Courtney on Health. Just follow her wherever you can follow her, because she's awesome. All right.
And guys, as usual, our time is up. Do you have any
time is up,
words?
and my dog is
just eat the best that you can. Up your fruit and veg. That's don't let lists scare you. Increase your fruit and vegetable intake. Better quality protein that's not so processed, and then work out what you can from there. So let's start with the lowest lying fruit, and then increase the detail from there.
Right. And then I know maybe in a future show we'll do like the food pyramid, and like how much people should be eating of what, because people they get confused. Everyone's so confused. But anyway, I guess that's a wrap, and check Courtney on health out, and we'll see you again next time.
Anyway,
Bye,
thanks a lot, guys.
everybody. Bye. Bye,
Ta
Sparkles.
ta.
Bye. Sorry for Sparkles coming in here.
Oh, bye, Sparkles.
Say goodbye.
You gotta, off. Bye.
Woof, woof. Okay.